In this episode, we talked to Alex Oliveira out of Florida. He is an amazing gentleman who has created massive success around lead generation. And I can't wait for you to hear his top pick on the things that you should be doing to start, just allow your digital marketing to take off. But before we get into that conversation with Alex, give us a rating on our podcast, subscribe to it, leave us a feedback. We'd love to hear from you on how we're doing and the content we're bringing to you on a weekly basis. So without further ado, folks, hope you enjoy this conversation that we're going to have with Alex Oliveira right now. Alex, so good to have you, man. We've been tracking you down for a minute, brother, and you are finally here. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Considering everything going on in the world and the markets going up and down. Listen, my family's healthy, aside from a couple of family members who've had some issues, but my kids are healthy. Business is going good. I really can't complain, man. Feel very blessed.
Amazing, man. We're excited to have you on our show and can't wait to chat with you. You are a master, and I've learned a lot from you, and I hope my audience will too. But they want to know who you are and what you do. So why don't we start there?
All right, man. Well, so my name is Alex Oliveira. I came to the U.S. from Brazil in 1988. So I was like a kid, third, fourth grade. Came into Esau, knew no English, And my family, we come from a big family. My mom had 13 brothers and sisters. My dad, 11, 34 first cousins on one side. I mean, it's a huge family, So we had to leave that family behind. But we came for a better life, and a better life we created, man. I mean, I have to say that, it sounds like all touchy-feely, but America did give us that better life that we were looking for. And we still go back to Brazil. My grandpa's down there. But as far as like my track from there to where for the last 20 years, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been in 4 or 5 different industries: construction, automotive, financial. I was a stockbroker for a while. I flipped homes. And then, of course, for the last 10 plus years, I've been in the lead generation, digital marketing space, helping small, medium, and large businesses grow through lead generation, and all for fun. It's my kids. I've got 4 kids, and we homeschool them, my wife and I, here in Central Florida. We're actually in what's considered a space coast. Like from my house, I could see the rockets, SpaceX launch. Nice. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a cool area, man. You got the beach, you got the rockets, you got the swamps, and man, that's it in a nutshell. Love to help small businesses. So I think the podcast here, you and I share that. I know when I talk to you and we discuss business, it's like, what can we do to help the businesses that we truly can't bring on as clients? There's a lot of ways we can help them. They just have to pay attention, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. And I really love how you are so passionate about paying it forward and just really helping the community to just get a piece of something that you can use to grow and to move your needle, one step further to success. So I'm curious to know though, like, how did you get to the lead generation point? Like, what made you wanted to get into that space? Because I know you mentioned you were doing a couple other things before. So talk to us about what the journey from, like, how did you decide and what made you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, really, it's when I'm in college, 1999 to 2000. So 2000 really is where I met my wife. She was my next door neighbor. And I started dabbling in buying domains. So I'm buying domains, selling domains, and I'm really attracted to the internet at that time and going, wow, man, there's a lot of opportunities here. As a matter of fact, my first real estate deal I bought on eBay in 2000. And I still have it to this day. It's a property out in New Mexico. So when I say I'm an early adopter, man, I'm an early adopter. And I've made a lot of mistakes because I've tried a lot of the new things, and often the new things don't stick around. So it's a double-edged sword in that way. But I just love the whole digital space and technology for that reason, because there's always so much possibility and discovery, exploration. And so when I went to work for my mom, I took over her company. She had a textile manufacturing business. So we were making shirts, and I mean, we had customers in every state, all 50 states plus Hawaii. And it was a great business, textiles, fabrics, shirts, industrial manufacturing, but it wasn't my passion. And I spent like 3 years there right out of college. But it was good. I learned a lot of the things that I wouldn't have learned had I started my own business first, because their business was going well and it was funded and they had customers. So I got to inherit that and and kind of skip that. But around 2004, one of my uncles came to me and said, "Hey, I want to scale my construction company. I know that we went to school for business marketing." I said, "Great, let's do it." So I hand in my resignation and go work with my uncle. Well, working with family is not super easy always. And probably about 6 months into it, my uncle's like, "Hey, listen, we're not making money like I thought we would. I think you just buy me out." I said, "Okay." So I know nothing about construction. So please, like, just remember, I like knew nothing. He was the guy on the job sites. I was the guy doing the marketing and sales. And we had a good crew. We had, trucks, machines. And I said, "All right, so I'm going to take this on my own, man." And I did. And I found out very quickly that while I needed to be out there on the job sites, where I really shined was in the background, doing the marketing, doing the sales, So I focused on that, and I brought in people who knew what they were doing, who could manage job sites, supervise, and all of that, buy materials, deliver materials. And I did that. And so that's around like 2004. And from like early days of pay-per-click, Google AdWords as it used to be, all around the country, but we're only servicing Florida, mainly South Florida, like Key West to West Palm Beach. But I'm generating leads from everywhere, from doing SEO, email marketing, and it's really early days. So I'm thinking, like, how do I sell all this extra traffic and leads? And I came across a bunch of companies. The first one, which used to be called Service Magic, and now it then became Home Advisor, then merged with Angie's List, and now it's called Angie, which is the largest home improvement marketplace in the globe. So early days when they were Service Magic, I'm like, wait a minute, I could sell my leads back to Service Magic from the other 49 states that I don't have a presence in. They say, yes, that's like affiliate marketing. You just have to brand it that way. I said, what the? Okay, man, let's, drive a lot of traffic, build content, and resell the leads that we don't service. Well, within about like 4 or 5 years, it became very clear to me that there was more money in lead generation for me than construction, So, but that's how I got into lead gen. That's how I got in, and I got the bug. And of course, digital marketing, as we talk about, this big umbrella that is the ecosystem that covers everything. But for me, it was always leads. It was like, yeah, social media is nice, email marketing is good, but to me, it's working with the sales teams who are like, listen, we need leads because we got to close them. And there's a difference there between sales and marketing that I think a lot of people get confused with, or at least small business owners that I talk to,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, growth comes from generating, revenue, and revenue is going to come from some lead is going to be paying you, right? So you've got to be excited about the lead generation piece, because that's where things happen. So we talked a little about before we started, we talked a little about the umbrella, this kind of handful of tools that we wanted to chat about today on the show. So why don't we start? Let's talk about these tools. I love the way you had framed it as an umbrella list of tools that really is going to make sense for your digital marketing or for your business, whatever is the business that you're doing. So why don't we start talking about these tools? What are they, and how we can use those?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first you really have to take an inventory of how much content you have, right, Ricardo? So if you're a small business owner and you say, man, I want to compete online, I want to generate traffic. If I'm e-commerce, I want to, sell my products on my Shopify store. That's fantastic. But let me ask you a question, whether it's your product or service, how much content do you have around that? Like, and I'm not just talking white paper or a blog or a case study in general. Like, how many videos do you have? Do you have podcasts, audio files? Do you have courses around that? Do you do webinars? Right. I've recently had a client who swears webinars that never worked. And all of a sudden, he's not only doing webinars, he's charging $50 per person, and he's getting at least 100 people on his webinars. You told me it didn't work before, but it does work. You just have to do it the right way. So all of that, everything around online comes down to content, and you're trying to compel people around this inbound content, right? Like all this inbound marketing with that content. So take an inventory, take a look at your competitors, go to Google, use SEMrush, take an inventory and go, okay, my site, I have 50 pages. My competitor has 5,000. If your competitor has 5,000 pages that are SEO'd properly with fresh content, well, who's going to win that battle? So don't tell me you want to get on page one when you're not willing to create content first and foremost. So you have to be willing to create content. Does it have to be an SEO guy? No, you could worry about that after you start to create content. But talk to your customers and say, hey, customer, whatever company you have, you could be an air conditioning repair guy, you could be a dentist, and talk to your customer and say, when you go online, how do you look for my product or service? And they're going to tell you, here's where I go. I go to reviews, I go to search, I use DuckDuckGo, I use Bing, whatever. And then say, okay, what do you do after that? So you find a company. Okay, then I click on the company, even if it's on social media. Okay, great. Once you're on that website, what are you trying to do? Well, what people are trying to do is educate themselves. So in the case of my mom, she's about to have a foot surgery. Well, what we did was go on this goose chase to find out more information about orthopedic surgery. And it might not be in a marketplace like vitals.com or WebMD. It might be in a more reputable website like the Mayo Clinic. But nevertheless, the Mayo Clinic, whether they're a small organization or the Mayo Clinic, which is large hospital, they have to have content around that. Not just one page. I mean, thousands, as many as possible. So the question is, well, how many should I have? I mean, how many leads do you want? That's what it comes down to, right? So be willing to create enough content that your customers will be able to absorb and not feel what I call it going hungry. If your customers are looking for information to educate themselves so that they can make their own decisions, because let's face it, in a lot of industries today, Ricardo, I know this is not going to be popular with salespeople, but in a lot of industries, the salesperson, news to everybody, is not as key to the purchasing decision anymore. It just isn't. I'm sorry. Like literally, I go buy a car, man, I already did all the research. I know more than the dealer knows. So when I get there, it's just a how is the customer experience going to be, right? And price is of course very important always. So for you as a business, you have to think like, how am I going to feed my target audience with content? And that's where I start with that, Ricardo, because even for me and for you, we're in this business. We have people who work for us. And even for us, it's difficult to create content on a consistent basis. Now, you and I had chatted about this earlier. We chose podcast because podcast starts here, and then we could repurpose it from video to a blog post to social media to email marketing. It doesn't have to be podcast. It could be product pages. It could be checklists, case studies, infographics, you name it. But I'll just start with the content, because the content is going to be the thing that even if you generate leads and that customer gives you their information and they start to look for more information about the product or service, and then you don't have that, That's it. They go to your competitor who does have the content. And then you're going, well, that's weird, Alex. You generated the leads for me. I did these Facebook lead ads or Google ads, but these people are not picking up the phone. And I'm like, right, because you don't have any content to feed them. They're hungry for the content. So, so it's the content. So back to the one of my favorite tools right now is Jarvis. Assuming you've already done keyword research using Google Keyword Planner or SEMrush or Ahrefs, assuming you know your keywords, I would go to jarvis.ai. I love jarvis.ai. And everyone that I've turned on to Jarvis, it's artificial intelligence for content creation. Whether you're creating ads on Facebook, whether you're creating email. I mean, and when I'm talking about email, I'm talking about so my favorite tool right now, Ricardo, is jarvis.ai. It's artificial intelligence for content. And so if you're having difficulty creating blogs, creating product pages, creating copy for your ads, the text for sales letters via email, any of those digital marketing channels where you're saying, I just don't have time to create content, but I hear Ricardo and Alex telling me that I must have content so they can feed my leads and bring in prospects. Well, Jarvis is absolutely going to solve that problem for you. But again, I'm assuming you've already done your keyword research and you are an expert in your subject matter. Once you go in there, Ricardo, anyone can do it. You set up a free account, you put in the keywords, you write an abstract, so to speak, like a one sentence about what you want the artificial intelligence to create, and voila, man. I mean, you could actually write an ebook, like 20,000 words using the coding from this AI. It's incredible.
Amazing. That's amazing. So assuming you've got the content strategies, worked out, then you can use Jarvis to build on that and generate as much as you want. What else is it that we need to then think through for digital marketing?
Yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of people still say, email is no good because of Apple's privacy updates. You can't view open rates from Apple users, but that's okay, man. Email for every client that I've worked with over the last decade has worked, continues to work. Yes, you have to have a subscriber list and you have to nurture and get to that point, but there's no better way than doing it than email. And then second to that, if you can, I would implement SMS. And that's not for every industry, but certainly healthcare, construction, real estate. These are industries where, if your pest control guys come into your house, you can keep in touch with them, right? And so the technology is there for people to communicate via text. So nurturing that lead and understanding how they want to be communicated to is super important. I don't want people to think about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these social media platforms as just social. Think of it like a communication. Think of each social media platform as an extension line at your company, an extension, literally like extension 101, 102, 103. Well, if you have extensions in your company going back, 50, 60 years, if it rings, you answer it in real time, not like 3 days later. So do the same. You're a small business, do yourself a favor. Each of these channels where there is an audience that wants your product or service, treat those like extensions of the phone, or if you want, treat them as different locations for your business. People are going to enter, they have questions, right? And of course, it's not just posting organic content. You must do some ads too, but using tools like Jarvis to create content and feed them. And then once they're fed, then you start to figure out what their journey and needs are, creating content to be able to consistently communicate with them. And again, that communication is not always going to be email or SMS. So if I ask Ricardo, I said, you came in, you saw my business on LinkedIn, you inquired, I called, we spoke, you asked for a proposal, I sent you a proposal. You said, I'm not ready. That's okay. We know that's more than half the people are never ready in either B2B or B2C. So now you're like, okay, what else? I'm going to start to hit you up with some emails every other week, but not with offers, emails that are relevant to what you came in with, whatever your need was. And then beyond that, after you get comfortable with me and I know that you're opening my emails, I'm going to say, Ricardo, what other platforms are you on? You might say, you know what, my favorite form of communication is WhatsApp. Okay, we're going to communicate with you via WhatsApp. Why would I post something on Facebook or some other platform, even though Facebook owns WhatsApp, and expect that Ricardo's going to communicate with me there? Maybe you do it on Messenger. But if you told me it's WhatsApp, what I'm going to tell my marketing team is that Ricardo is one of the people who are now segmented to this extension called WhatsApp. And when we have new content that is relevant to Ricardo, we're going to deliver it in that line, meet Ricardo where he wants to be met. So it's a lot of work. It is. So I'm not going to paint a picture that you can simply automate all of this. But I think that's the good news for small business owners. If you're not dealing in volume, say thousands of transactions every day, most small businesses are not, then this is doable, man. And no, it's not going to happen in a month or 2 or 3. It takes time.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere, right, Ricardo?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right, and you're spot on. And obviously, and I like Jarvis because I think it's really powerful as we shift into the AI world. We have been shifting for a while. Like who are some of the folks that Jarvis is perfect for? I mean, is this for anybody who, regardless of whether or not they run a cleaning business or they run a dental business or something for space? Who is the best set of folks that would benefit from Jarvis, you say?
Yeah. So far, I have not come across an industry or a subject matter that is not good for Jarvis, because actually it's the technology that works, not the subject matter so much. The subject matter, all Jarvis is doing is going in their database, which is ultimately like a big search platform from articles that they have scraped and they own, of course, right? But it's all in there, and they've programmed it as such based on internet search. Okay, so you go read more about the technology and go, man, but that's crazy, because I could use it on medical, construction, automotive, real estate, financial, legal, even legal. So I have a law firm client who we just do lead gen for them, but they are using it to create their blog posts. Now, depending on the type of law, even if you're an amazing writer that has been working in the legal industry for 20 years, there are subject matters that are just too complex, even for a very informed human to write. So what I've noticed is that you might create a 500-word blog post, and you definitely have to go in there and give it up, like, a little bit, some changes, just some editing, but that's nothing strange, right, Ricardo? Because you and I know from working with content writers and working with platforms like Text Broker or Upwork, where I've hired thousands of writers over the years, that even the best writers, the 5-star writer,
yeah,
you still got to come back and edit and give it that flavor and that the messaging and the sound that speaks to the client's brand. Is it playful? Is it friendly? Is it professional? Is it dry? What is it? So either way, you're still going to, it's not like so turnkey that you're like, I just put in the keywords and then boom, I create 1,000 pages on my website. It's not necessarily that way, but it is, like, I would say, like having an entry-level writer on your team. And that says a lot, man.
This podcast is sponsored by MeisterTask, the most intuitive task manager on the web. MeisterTask is an easy-to-use project management tool. Makes it easy and fun and colorful to get all your projects managed in one place. As an entrepreneur, I use MeisterTask to help me manage all of my projects. I can drag and drop different tasks. I can assign key people to the task. I can set deadlines and schedules and enjoy just beautiful colors while I do that. So if you are interested in trying MeisterTask, go to meistertask.com/DMT tools. That's meistertask.com/DMT tools. And you can sign up for a free trial when you upgrade to the Pro plan. So get started for free today and invite your team members and get productive together. No, it's powerful, and I think this is where things are going to go, right? Where you're going to have AI tools that's so sensitive that it can literally get to the T of who you are and your preferences and your personality, and mirrors that so that you can't tell the difference. I think that day is essentially coming, and sooner than later. And so it's only a matter of time, if you have to go into your own, generated content and kind of tweak it a little to suit your tastes and preferences, the machine is going to be able to learn that too soon. So that's amazing in terms of where we're coming from, right? I was interested to also kind of understand, like, folks who are listening want to access this tool. I think you did mention it's Jarvis.ai, right? You go there, it's a free tool. Like, what's the business model there, if you can remind us?
Sure. Yes, there are definitely features that you only get with the paid version, right? And you can pay, I believe it's $20 a month is the lowest level, or you get the free tool. But the free tool gives you up to, I want to say up to 10,000 words per month. And then the $20 a month tool will give you 25,000 words total. And then it goes from there, right? You can do enterprise and whatnot. But honestly, with the free tool, you've got enough features there to make it work for you. So especially if you're like doing ads, and this is something that you and I know from working with BizHack and others, that when small business owners are creating ads, the biggest challenge they have is being creative, because they're like, oh, I'm a business owner, I'm not creative. Oh my God, what am I going to write about? And we're trying to teach them about their story and irresistible offer and all of that. But I've noticed that unlike professional marketers who may create 50, 60, 100 mock-ups before they put out one good ad, small business owners are not willing to do that. They're like, listen, I'm going to write like 3-4 mock-ups, and we're going to pick one and run with it. This is where Jarvis can really help you. Even in the free version, you can write out those ads, like the headline, the description, the call to action, pop it in there, and ask them. You can ask the software to give you 3, 7, 10 other versions of that original one. And you will get different versions with different words that are power words. Like, I was teaching a client of mine based on Omnisend for this past year, the power words, and it's a list of like 50, 60 words. They call it power words for email marketing. When you use these words in the subject line for email, I mean, it just, your open rate just goes through the roof. And so, we've tested that to see, is there any truth to that, using numbers in a subject line, capital versus no capital line. Like, these are all, there's a science to the algorithm for every one of these systems. And frankly, none of us really know exactly how the algorithm works for each one of these, because these are trade secrets.
Yeah.
SEOs that say, I know the algorithm from Google. Man, get out of here. If you did, you would freaking own Google. Like, I mean, I'm just being serious. It's one thing to say you're a professional SEO, which I respect. That's fantastic. You follow those 200-300, ranking indicators or factors that change 500 times a year. But you know exactly how who is pulling the trigger and when. Now you don't, man. Nobody knows. And frankly, I know enough people that work at Google who also don't know.
Yeah.
So my point is, like, even if you hire the best marketer, even if you go out and hire Ricardo and say, Ricardo, man, Ricardo can't guarantee you that this one word or one particular call to action or this one article that Jarvis wrote versus the professional writer, you can't guarantee that all those things are going to work. I think as marketers, right, Ricardo, what we can say is that you have to have the willingness to continuously test. And that is not something that no one wants to hear that. Wait, what? I got to spend a lot of money. And so, wait, so you don't know what you're doing is what you're saying. It's like, no, man, it takes time. It's you test things. Now, yes, there are things that work. Like I'm saying, these power words, they work. If you write an article, whether it's a professional writer or Jarvis, and you're using your keywords and you optimize it right, you will get visibility over time. But it takes time, and I think that that's the thing that for many small business owners, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, and proper growth takes time, and so you really have got to embrace the idea of that experimental mode. I had a presentation from a colleague of mine in Argentina, I think it was yesterday, who talks about just sort of that beta mindset, right? Just always in beta, just always kind of testing things, because not everything will work for you. But once you find the one that does, you need to lean into it, which requires more testing as well, right? So that's pretty awesome, man. Any other tool that you want to drop on us today?
No, that's the one I'd stick with. I mean, the fact is, like, you have to really understand how much content you have to feed your audience. And if you don't have enough content, man, go out in 2022 and say, each quarter, I'm going to have a goal. LinkedIn, early on, Reid Hoffman, the founder, and all those guys, they came up with a concept called, I think it was called Big Rock. And Big Rock was, while everyone in 2010 was just creating arbitrage of content, just creating pages and pages, they said, well, our strategy is going to be different. We're going to each quarter just have one big piece of content, whether it's an ebook or a video course or whatever. And then we'll break up that piece of content into a bunch of little pieces throughout the quarter. So it's not a unique concept these days anymore, but that's the advice I give small business owners, Ricardo, which is take your inventory of your content, talk to your customers and ask them what kind of content do they want. So you don't just go create it out of thin air. Know your keywords, use Jarvis, hire some talent on Upwork, on Fiverr, on, Text Broker, and put that all together. Start to create content, but you got to measure it. You and I talked about measuring it. So the only other tool that I could tell you is web analytics, man. And I don't care whether you're using Google Analytics or Cloudflare or any of the other tools that are out there. Know your stats, because if you don't know your stats, all of this that you and I are talking about, it'll just fall flat, and they'll go, whoa, Alex, you and Ricardo told us go create content, use Jarvis. I used the right keywords, but I don't know what's working. All right, let me ask you. So this is a real question I ask any business owner, even the large Fortune 500 companies that I work with, Ricardo. Say, working with a marketing team. All right. So if you're the marketing team handling this product, right? You're responsible for marketing this product. Fantastic. Cool. So you handle what, 10, 20 landing pages? Awesome. How many clicks go to each landing pages? What's the click-through rate? What's the bounce rate? So I start asking those questions. Inevitably, you find out, big or small, they can't answer it on the fly like that, right? So hopefully what you're trying to get at is to say, but I have the reports and I review them daily or weekly or monthly. That you need to know, guys, just like what you and I talked about, Ricardo. It's like, whether it's financial or marketing, you need to know your data. Otherwise, I would just, again, wave that red flag that if you do all of this marketing stuff to get more leads but you don't understand the numbers, you can't come blame me and Ricardo and say, oh man, you guys, come on, I tested, I spent money. Just, you got to put that in place for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a saying that says every company is a marketing company. And that saying, basically went on to every company is a media company. Today, every company is a content company. Today, every company is a data company, right? So there are all of these different things that you have to embrace because it doesn't matter if you cook and you have a fantastic restaurant, or you do cleaning, or you fly planes, or whatever you do, you generate data for every single activity, from you open that door to closing it, whether working at home or wherever. So you have to embrace these things in order to really get a glimpse of growth, right? Alex, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd want to share with us today?
No. The only thing is I have a book coming out next year, early next year, and it's about this same topic that we're talking about. As a matter of fact, the front of the book is a maze. It's a round maze, and the maze has a shopping cart on one side, and then the concept is, I don't whether you're buying online or in person, doesn't matter the industry. It's like you're here and the customer's here, and you're trying to get them to come here and find that path to buy the product and come back. There's payments, technologies. There's so much between those two touch points, and then on top of that, there's that friction because of these third-party platforms, these marketplaces. So the book is all about this, and the title is actually like, "If you build it, will they come?" They don't. You and I know that. So to your point, you create content, people are not just going to simply come there. So you have to be super strategic on how you pinpoint your way through that maze, and tell that customer how they go through that maze, not based on what you want, but based on what they want. It's customer centric. Beyond that, even if you do that, you still got to treat them well, because if you don't have good customer service, good customer experience, over time, you're going to lose. So when that book comes out, I'll definitely share it with you so you could share it with your audience. Maybe we'll do a giveaway, but I'm confident that, it's not a book about stories. It's more of a how-to book, and it's got a lot of exercises that a small business owner would be able to do. I know people like you and I, while we work on with larger teams, my passion has always been working with the small business owner, and then seeing them grow. So we know this stuff works. It just, you have to stick with it, be consistent, and then you'll be able to see success.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't wait for that book to come out, which brings me to the other question, because I typically like to know, what books you have read or reading that's really speaking to you. And I know you do your podcast as well, and we always kind of like to, get a feel as to, what you're feeding your brain with. So if you can share one or two books that you have been reading, or you have been, you have read, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one that I've probably read like, 3, 4 times that I'm reading again right now, I'm about halfway, Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point. I don't know if you see it
Tipping
there.
Point. Got it.
It's like, well, Outliers is really good too, but it's just, I think for those of us, because typically these types of books, or Simon Sinek, I have his Why here. Typically these books are, for good reasons, they're based on obviously much, much bigger companies. And, they're talking the Apples, the Bill Gateses, out, but you can totally use those metaphors and examples for your business. And I always find that when I'm reading these books, I highlight certain pages, like, and then I'll put a little like earmark, and I'll come back and go, man, that thing spoke to me, and I'm going to incorporate that into my business or my customer or my employees, which is, I think, something that now, as we're all dealing with this great resignation, it is really hard to keep good people working for you, and for small businesses, for them to succeed. Listen, part of the magic. I know that you've talked about this with me, Ricardo, and it's true for me too. The success that I've experienced in the last 20 years, I can create a whole list of people that did it with me and for me, whether it was a vendor, a customer, an employee. So it's not really about me. It's about the people that were with me on that journey, and even if you're selling e-commerce virtually, you're depending on other people to implement these technologies. So um, I think that that's something that's real important to focus on people, and these books definitely have great stories about just that. So yeah, that's the one that I would recommend now.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, that's incredible. And what about podcasts? I know you do your own podcast. You've done several. What do you spend time listening to?
Yeah, so every day, I mean, I hate to say it because you and I we're considered indie podcast, which is like literally 90% of the 2 million plus podcasts are indie. And then of course the rest are just the big ones, right? The Spotify's that have Gimlet Media behind it, or NPR. But I like the Journal. The Journal I really like. I like the Daily. And again, these are not. It's like those podcasts, people will say, "Oh, I thought you'd be listening to marketing podcasts or sales or, Tim Ferriss, Grant Cardone, all these guys." I'm like, man, I already do that all day. You know what I mean? So when I listen to a podcast, I want to listen to something more globally, not just about my industry. I do that all day. So I want to be informed because I don't not one to watch TV or the news. So that's a good way for me to stay informed. But I do like Bankless. Bankless is a podcast about cryptocurrency. So it's a little lengthy for me. It's usually like 90 minutes. And for me, I mean, even if it's like the best podcast and guest in the world, like us here today, right? Uh, 40 minutes maybe is my tipping point, because like these like Joe Rogan type podcasts for like 2-3 hours, I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
who has that much time in a day? I don't. But I love the podcast because you get to go, you're on the go and you're listening. And I usually am taking notes like in my head. I put it into my phone. I always get something out of it, man. And uh YouTube is good too, but YouTube can be a little bit too, their algorithm is not meant for podcasts. So what I'm sure your listeners have noticed, now YouTube has the app. It's called YouTube Music. And the
Mhm.
reason they did that is because music doesn't really belong on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so YouTube Music, the app itself, is meant to compete with Spotify because they noticed, like, wait a minute, Spotify already surpassed Apple in podcasts. Spotify has dominated the music industry for the last, 10 years. Of course, you got Pandora and others, but YouTube, as we know, owned by Google, they realized, like, hold on a second, there's just so much garbage on YouTube. That's just the truth. You try to go get a how-to video, next thing you know, you're watching some crazy thing that has nothing to do with what with what you're looking for to begin with. And the ads aren't always um uh I would say they don't always line up with the audience either, I would say, because I get ads on YouTube that, I'm telling you, have nothing to do with my demographics. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, the only thing I can think, Ricardo, is that Google, Facebook, they're all in it for money. I get it. It's the shareholders. So yes, there's going to be a certain number of ads that hit anybody who's willing to watch,
Yeah.
which is, that's a whole different we could come back and do that on another show for sure, man.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Listen, man, we're always looking for creators and master users and just brilliance like yourself,
Thank
who
you.
can really help us to help other businesses to grow. So I'm wondering, any recommendation? Who do you think should be someone that we should bring on the show to talk to as a next guest?
Oh, all right. Wow. Well, like I said, I'm lucky. I know a lot of great people. So, um, well, I guess, let me ask you a question, Ricardo. Are you, when your audience, of course, they want to know what's new, what works, whether it's in the context of marketing or business. Are your guests more aligned with, you know, someone who's a pro in one specific channel or industry? Or do you prefer to have a guest that has just a great story? Like, because I love talking to business people. And so, you know, if it would that be better, or do you want another marketer or another lead gen guy?
Well, I think, and we try to make it interesting and we try to mix it up, right? But I really think, getting to pro, there are some secret weapons and some things that you've had to use and do, and those are the things that we like to know about, because our listeners are startups, they're entrepreneurs, one-man band, mompreneur, and so they're always kind of interesting, like, how did you do that, and what did you use to do it? Now that you're a pro, your story really, I'm sure, has milestones of tools or stuff that you had to sort of lean into to make it beautiful, and it comes out like that. So we're always kind of interested in any of those pieces that we can bring in from time to time to really help our listeners to control their growth.
Yeah, so I know exactly who you should interview. I've had her on my podcast 3 times. That's how amazing she is. Christy Harfman. And Christy Harfman, she's a mompreneur, influencer, blogger. She left corporate America, started her own channel 10 plus years ago. She works with brands from Disney to you name it. Okay. And she knows her stuff, man. And she could tell you all the ups and downs. She's very transparent about what it's like to have 50 or 100,000 followers on Instagram. And there is some really downsides to it where you don't control your business. She talks about it. Hey, social media, even though I make a lot of money from doing social media and being an influencer, it's rented space. I don't own it. And people look at her and go, what? I thought you were going to be like, it's the greatest thing. She's like, well, no, I mean, take the good with the bad. So she talks about always going back to her own media, which is her website, her blog, the email communication between her and her customers. I think your audience would absolutely identify with her because it hasn't been, she would also tell you that it didn't take a day or a year or two to get to where she is. It was patience, and she even talks about how she's great at Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, but TikTok isn't her thing. So her husband, who's a realtor, he's great at TikTok. So he's got a ton of followers there. So again, you don't have to be everything to everyone. And I think her story will be very inspiring for you and your listeners.
That's and we'd love an introduction if you may. We'd love to get her on this show. Well, man, our time has come, but it was so awesome to have you jumping in. It won't be the last, though. I would love to follow up with you. Let us know when the book's ready. You can come back on. You can kind of dive some more into it. But it's super exciting to have you around, and looking forward to chatting with you in the future, man.
Thank you, Ricardo. And thank you for doing the podcast. I think these podcasts, again, is a tool for business owners that I think many business owners don't even know how powerful it is out there. When most of your guests are people who are doing it right, are working hard every day to do this whole thing the best way possible. So thank you again, man, for doing everything you do. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You got it. Take it easy. That was an amazing conversation with Alex Oliveira, who just really poured into us around thinking about content as a major strategy to be able to connect with your audience. I hope you took away as much as I did, folks, from this conversation. And follow us on social media, like us, subscribe to our podcast to stay in touch with what we're actually doing and the content that we keep releasing. And so until next time, we'll be right here, same place, as we bring you another episode. Don't forget to choose a tool to help you rule your growth. We'll talk soon.